Well, welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So, as the title says, should we be rationing now? And you all know I don't get political on my channel. I try not to talk about prepping from a spirit of fear. But I went down a rabbit hole, as sometimes I do. And just to let you all know, yes, this is another sitting video. I'm still struggling with my back. I really would appreciate your prayers. I'm just praying that it is a muscular thing and that I haven't done anything to my surgery. I was able to get my mom to the dentist and do all the things. So I'm still up, I'm still moving around. It's just, I don't feel like cooking and, well, cooking big things. And I need to run the vacuum, and that is like a murder on my back. So anyway, on to today's topic. So what's going on in the world? We all know we've had the V. Now we have the Russia-Ukraine situation. We have huge supply chain issues. And also, guys, the situation with the truckers who do not want, and I'll just say the jab, who cross the Canadian-US border or the Mexico-US border on the daily to deliver goods are not being permitted access into the US to hopefully control the spread of germs. I'll say it that way. So I still have not been shopping, guys, like in the store. I'll tell you what I did buy and why in just a few minutes. I'm hoping this video won't be too long, but let me tell you, I am going to be doing a series, and I'm super excited about it, on really how to ration or control your own food supply in your home, as well as some other goods, but we're going to focus on food first so that you can get the most from your food, be the most frugal, be the least wasteful, all of those good things. So not from a spirit of fear, but from a spirit of being responsible and making the most of what you have. So I do have talking notes, guys, pages of them. Like I said, I went down a rabbit hole. My mother was born in 1935. So in 1942 is when rationing started. So my mom would have been 7 years old. She can't remember what she had for breakfast or if she even ate breakfast. However, my mom, as many folks that have memory impairment, can remember things long ago. And she has very clear memory of rationing and food coupons and her mother's attempt to comply with what supplies they had on hand. And one of the stories she told me this morning when I shared with her, you know, what I've been researching, was about her mother. And her mother was very caffeine dependent. And this was my grandma Victoria. And so if she didn't get her coffee in large quantities, she would get a headache, because that can happen to people who are caffeine addicted. So my grandfather, and I am so enamored by this story, actually gave up coffee so my grandma would not struggle not having her caffeine. So how did rationing work? I was hoping I could just like show you a slide or show you something that would be like, this is what everyone got. So that's not the way it worked. And I can explain to you kind of how it fell out around food. I won't be able to give you exact amounts for everything. So every American was issued a ration book. If you were an infant, if you were an adult, did not matter. That's right, Frankie. Frankie's still a little upset because mom's not her normal self. So anyway, one of the reasons they did this was so that the wealthy couldn't go in and just buy up all the supplies, and those with less money would have nothing. So it was kind of a forced rationing where everyone, regardless of income or status, was equal. Many commodities were rationed. Now, for the purpose of today's video, we're going to talk primarily about food. But the first thing that was rationed was tires. You couldn't buy new tires. You could get them patched or repaired or retread, but you couldn't get tires. Cars, gasoline, like all kinds of commodities like that were rationed in addition to food. But it was a point system. So I will show you, and I apologize for the poor quality. In fact, I'll just insert right here a picture, and then I will explain it to you. So the ration coupon books were distributed by volunteers. So there was a lot of the OPA, who was like heading up this food rationing, a lot of information that was put out on how to shop with the war ration book. And they actually did a survey in the 40s, and 70% of men and 45% of women said they did not fully understand the rationing system. In my research, and guys, I dug deep, it was complicated. It was so complicated. It wasn't just, here's my meat coupon, here's my bread coupon. It wasn't like that. It was a bit different. So let's kind of roll back here, and we're going to talk about some of the limitations. So the first thing that was rationed was sugar in April of 1942, and you could have a ½ pound per week. So think about a 5-pound bag of sugar, and if you sweeten beverages, etc., because there weren't all the artificial sweeteners available, ½ pound of sugar a week per person isn't a lot, but that's what the ration was. The second was coffee, which was rationed in November of 1942, and you could have 1 pound, guys, every 5 weeks. So basically, if you bought a 1 pound pack of beans, that had to last a little more than a month, so 32 days. Other things that were rationed were meat, lard, shortening, food oils, cheese, butter, margarine, processed food, dried fruit, canned milk, firewood and coal, jams and jellies, and all of that was in place by November of 43, so just like a year and a half from when rationing started. So books for the points were distributed by volunteers. They did their best job to explain how the point system worked. I found a lot of images, and I would love to have a World War II ration book intact just to see what it looked like, but I don't. It would have like a picture of a can of peaches and a can of pears and a can of peas and a can of corn, and then each item would say how many points it was. So I think it was kind of complex, and for those who were not innovative home cooks, I'm sure it was a struggle. So I am talking about this because, not because I believe we're going to be rationed, but as you know, Washington, D.C. put out a poster, and it basically said, buy only what you need. So they're discouraging panic buying. However, in the YouTube community of, let me just call them extreme preppers, like that's not a derogatory term, but there are many who believe that this is the start of rationing. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know is what worked in 1942 can help us today, and that's the spirit in which I am going to be bringing you this series. So, ways to cook innovatively using products that you have on hand and substituting or stretching meats, etc. So I thought, you know what, I need a cookbook. Kim always needs a cookbook, right? So I am going to insert right here. I found this cookbook, actually from watching a YouTube channel, and I apologize, I don't know which one, about the Victory Cookbook. And it is actually a cookbook for rationing that was printed back in the 40s. So let me insert this picture here of what I found on Amazon. So I am not going to leave a link in the description box to a $109 book. So I took that as a personal challenge because y'all know I have a lot of cookbooks, but I really want to bring you this information because it's going to help me, and I hope it will help some of you. I live on Social Security, and it did go up this year, record high of 5.9%. Woohoo. Yeah, healthcare went up probably more than that. So, yeah, Medicare ate up my increase. But at any rate, so I went to Thrift Books, and guess what, guys? It was out of stock. And I thought, well, that's really odd. So I went to Abe Books, pardon me, and I just ordered it today, so I don't have it yet, but you will see it. I purchased the book for $3.89 with free shipping coming from Toledo, Ohio, so it will be here in relatively few days. So that is just a good example of thrift. And I mean, none of you would buy a book for $109. I know that, but searching around to find the best price, and I don't care that it's used, because as soon as I use it, it's going to be used, right? So I thought there's got to be more resources than that. And I came upon a free download. Now, when I looked for this item, I did a Google search. It was listed on eBay, on Etsy, on Amazon, all three places unavailable. So I started thinking about it, and I thought, with what has been going on in the world, I think a lot of people are pulling back, going to the roots, and finding ways to make our dollar go further as our inflation continues and prices continue to rise. Not only are things unavailable, sometimes, guys, they're straight up unaffordable. When I made the banana pudding, I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but I'm going to tell you, I paid $5.49 for that little box of vanilla wafers. I'm never going to do that again. I will come up with a different dessert. But at any rate, I found this book, guys, and I will drop a link to this in the description box. Now, let me tell you this before you start clicking on the link. When you click on the link, it opens a PDF where you can flip the pages, scroll on down, and then it will give you like 14 options of how you want to download it. Then once you download it, you can print it. If you try to print from that double screen where you can flip, all you're going to get is garbage. And you're going to get like some black stuff, okay? So don't do that. Scroll down, click on it. So this book is called Your Share, and it is by Betty Crocker. And I want to read to you a little bit out of it, and I know I don't like to be read to, but this is interesting and you're going to like it. So it is how to prepare appetizing, healthful meals with foods available today. 52 menus, 226 recipes, 369 hints on food buying, preparation, meal planning, and serving. I want you to listen to this paragraph just briefly because it's going to kind of set the tone for this series. So it talks about women in general, and then it says, but whatever else you do, you are first and foremost homemakers, women with the welfare of your families deepest in your hearts. Now you face a new and more difficult problem in the management of your homes. You must make a little do where there was an abundance before. In spite of sectional problems and shortages, you must prepare satisfying meals out of, and this is italicized, your share of what there is. You must heed the government requests to increase the use of available foods and save those that are scarce, and at the same time, safeguard your family's nutrition. Never has there been such an opportunity and a need for what American women can contribute. And I was like, wow, that was powerful to me. So this is a 52-page booklet. Guys, it's great. Now, it does talk about rationing and what rationing equivalents are, so that isn't going to be relative today. But what it is a way to stretch your food, stretch your meat, use other things that are highly rationed or today just might be unavailable or unaffordable. So first, it talks about meat. It tells how to cook different types of meat, like tough cuts versus tender cuts. It goes on to talk about, and it gives recipes, some of which I won't eat. Like, I know this is in one of my Betty Crocker cookbooks, emergency steak, and it's ground beef, milk, Wheaties, salt, pepper, and onion. That's an emergency. There are some things in here that are not healthful in my opinion. There's like a bologna casserole, those kinds of things. I like bologna, but it's high in fat and highly processed. It goes through eggs, how you can conserve eggs, how you can use eggs in various ways if you're having a meatless meal, how to stretch your milk supply. It goes through butter, it goes through cheese. Guys, I'm not gonna flip through the whole thing. This is a great resource for anyone who wants to make the most of what they have and not have to overspend, for sure. So, okay, here we go. So, I have gathered up some tips that were from the 40s on food rationing that I think we can apply today with some exceptions, just to be frank about it. So number one, plant a victory garden. So guys, you've all seen historical images about the victory gardens that were planted, but they were planted to supplement meals and to supplement the nutrition of their families because so many foods were rationed. So you would see posters that said digging for victory. So it was a big thing. So if you can container garden, do what you can with what you have. We're coming up on gardening season, guys. This really has motivated me to make the most of my garden this year, to grow as much as I can. I am not a cold weather crop person, or I haven't been, but I'm going to change that up this year because I know that my garden can really feed me and help me on a very limited Social Security income when I have to step to the grocery store. So some of the things that were grown were greens and beans, watermelon, tomatoes, and lots of root vegetables. So another tip was grow carrots. They're very inexpensive. You know, guys, you can go to Dollar Tree and buy 4 packs of seeds for $1. There's not a ton of seeds in there, but you can grow carrots quite easily. So just work up your soil really good so the carrot can grow down, you know, and you don't end up with like baby carrots. But they store really well. If you keep them refrigerated or cold, you can keep them for months after the harvest. And depending on your zone, you may be able to winter over your carrots as well. The third tip was to grow potatoes. Guys, it's been years since I've grown potatoes, and I would love it if you would leave me a comment below. Have y'all tried those bucket things that you grow potatoes in? So I reached out to Homestead Tessie and I was like, have you ever used those? And she said, no, but I've done well with similar containers. They are available on Amazon. I'll be sure and leave a link below. I have not ordered them, guys, but the thought of having to dig a hole in my soil or to dig deeply in my soil to plant potatoes is a little bit overwhelming. So I am thinking about the containers. But why grow potatoes? Guys, potatoes are a great starch to stretch meals, to fill up bellies. They keep well, and you can do so much with potatoes. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the uses. Fourth tip, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to put both hands up because I'm guilty of this. Don't let good food go to waste. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, I need to figure out how much waste we actually have. Hang on, it's in here. So on the average, an American wastes 1 pound per person per day, which adds up to about $1,500 per person per year. Now I have to say, I would love it if somebody would just hand me $1,500. I don't think my food waste is to that degree, but the U.S. averages 30 to 40% of its food supply is wasted, whether it's in spoilage, in processing and transportation, or at the end when we consumers do not respect our food and don't store it properly or use it timely. So how can you not let good food go to waste? So I'm going to give you an example. I try to go through my refrigerator on the regular. Y'all know I've been dealing with everything. I'll just encapsulate it in that. So when I was going through my refrigerator a couple days ago, I'm like, wow, I've got onions that are growing out of the vegetable bin. I have carrots that are fine, but probably could stand to be used, looking a little dry and shriveled. And I had some cans of chickpeas that were nearing best by date, which I eat things after best by date, but I made a delicious soup using chickpeas or garbanzo beans, rice, carrots, onions, vegetable broth that was also nearing expiration, and lots of spices. Guys, it's delicious and it's nutritious and it didn't contain any meat. It's a great vegan dish in actuality. So making soups, making stews, keeping that regular look in the fridge because I have like vegetable bins and things hide back there. You can also make more use of an item. So let's take the potato, the lowly potato, and you're peeling it because you're going to make mashed potatoes. You can wash the potato well, wash the skins well, and you can actually put them in your air fryer. You can fry them on the stove, and they're delicious, look kind of like potato chips with the skin on it. So we need to be more mindful of items like that we could be eating that are in fact going into my compost, or depending on the item, down the garbage disposal, or even in the garbage can. And that's causing a huge problem in our landfills, but I won't get off on that. You can also use like vegetable peels from like carrots, or like the part of a celery that you cut off, and make vegetable broth that you can or that you could refrigerate and then very quickly make a soup out of. So think about that. One of the things that folks did in the Depression, and this is a little extreme, but they reused their vegetable water. So let's say they were having cooked carrots as a side dish. They would boil their carrots, and knowing that there was nutrition in that water, they would then freeze that water, and the next vegetable they would cook in that carrot water. And then when that water was well saturated with nutrients and vegetable juice, they would use that as a vegetable broth. So that's a great idea for those of you who don't really enjoy cooking. I know it's a little extreme, but how hard would it be to pour that water, into a container, throw it in your freezer, thaw it quickly, and use it for your next round? Number 6, learn how to make your own sauces. Guys, I have something in the oven. Let me pause here just a moment. I'll see if it's done, and I'll be right back. All right, guys. I have some delicious Meyer lemon squares that just came out of the oven. I had to put a little powdered sugar on them. So I have been going through my pantry, and I had a lot of ready-made mixes such as that that are nearing or past expiration. They're absolutely fine. They're well sealed and kept in a controlled environment. So I have some Meyer lemon squares for later. And I have the added bonus of opening the oven door once I finish and warming up the house a little bit. Because after that last gas bill, guys, I'm going to be ruthless. I don't care how many shirts I have to wear. I'm getting that gas bill down. Stay tuned on that. So we were talking about learning to make your own salsas. Now, I've never met a gravy I didn't like. And if you don't know how to make a sauce, it can really improve the flavor of whatever dish that you're cooking, meat that you're cooking. So this Your Share book that is free to you has a lot of suggestions because fats were very limited, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So learn how to make a roux, which is a paste of a fat and a flour, and put it into meat drippings to make gravy. There are many kinds of sauces that you can do that will make your food more interesting. This isn't about deprivation. It's about making better use of what you have and wasting less. All right, cook your own beans and legumes. Guys, it's so much cheaper to buy the dried beans. Is it a pain? Well, you got to soak them overnight, and then you have to remember that they'll expand by 2, blah, blah, blah. But pennies on the dollar of a canned product. And if you remember back in the Depression, there was a limitation on metals. So any tinned or canned, if you want to call it that, products cost you points. So if you're buying beans in a can versus beans in a bag, you would be using points versus not using points. Number 8, make friends with oats. So tomorrow is my Azure Standard pickup. Today is Thursday, guys. I am getting ahead. So hopefully by the time you watch this, I will be doing cartwheels and my back will be fine. But I wanted to tell you about the Scottish oats that I did buy from Azure. Guys, they are delicious, or oat groats. So very, very good for you, very filling, very healthy. So I have been, since I went down this rabbit hole in my free time of healing my back, I have been trying to cook more frugally and use things that I know are healthy, that are filling, but aren't maybe necessarily convenient. So oat groats have to cook for about, I can do it in about 20 minutes. It says 25, but I don't mind them a little firmer. And then I had some raisins that are fine, just a little dried up. So cook them, they plump right up. And it was actually pretty delicious and stuck with me really well. But you can also use oats as a thickener, as a filler. You can grind them up and use them as a flour. Make your own oat flour. I actually use ground oats in 2 of my products. One is my goat's milk oats and honey soap, and the other is my nourishing cocoa butter and oatmeal bath bombs. So there are lots of uses for oats outside of, consuming them, but they do make a great filler. So think about using them in meatloaf. All right, number 9, plan a baking day to conserve energy. So I've talked in many videos that my oven is slow. Guys, my oven is huge. And I have a tendency to do like one thing one day and one thing the next. And a lot of it has to do with filming. So I don't want to be, doing 4 different dishes. But to conserve energy, especially with such a large oven, which is a huge electricity puller, that is going to be a very good idea for me. So that is one that I plan to do. I don't meal plan very well, but looking ahead, guys, I love my sweets and I'm not going to give it up until I have to. So what desserts do I want for the week? What bread do I need to bake? Is it going in the zojirushi? Is it going in the oven? Is there a casserole I can bake and then reheat, etc.? Number 10, use your bread. So bread was highly rationed. For a while, all you could get was brown bread. You could not get white bread. I make all of my own bread. I have not purchased a loaf of bread since I told y'all I wasn't going to do that anymore. I haven't done it. I've been super good about it. Have I had days without bread? You betcha. But as your bread gets stale, and homemade bread will, because it does not have the preservatives in it, dry it out, make croutons, cube it up, season it with a little bit of like olive oil and spices, bake them in the oven on your baking day, of course, or dry them out and make breadcrumbs out of it to use as fillers in a variety of things, or a topper for casseroles. You can also use old bread for French toast if you like French toast. Number 11, preserve extra produce. So we're certainly not to that point today, but I will tell you, and if you're a gardener, there does come a point where you're like, stop growing for about a minute so I can get all this preserved. So if you don't know how to can, guys, I have a whole playlist on canning. I am not an expert canner, but there are a lot of channels out there that are. Look at the channel for the brand of canner that you're going to be using, like Presto or Tefal or whatever. They have great videos to learn how to can. You can also dehydrate and freeze. Last year, I was so good about my dehydration at the end of season because I wasn't producing enough for a full canning cycle. So I did do a lot of dehydrating. All right, number 12, leverage packaged pectin. Now remember, guys, this was in 1942 that this recommendation came out. So you can use apple scraps to make your own pectin. Have I ever done it? No, but it piqued my interest, so we might be doing that a little bit later. Number 13, save fat. So during this period of time, anytime a meat was cooked, like bacon or sausage, that fat was saved. If you fry a piece of meat, that fat was saved to reuse because remember, butter, margarine, and a lot of fats were rationed. You can use today, there's a lot of margarines out there. I'm not a margarine user. I use butter. I use too much butter. But I do save bacon grease. I have a can of that liquid gold in my refrigerator. It's really great to fry things in, to dress up just plain scrambled eggs, put a little bit of bacon grease, a little bit in there. And it can be very, very tasty. So this is not, guys, a lesson on nutrition. This is a lesson on frugality and talking about what would have been done during war ration times. All right, number 14. I'm not going to do this. Eat offal. And I didn't say awful, but I might as well have said awful. So that's organ meats. So things you don't normally think of. Tongue, liver, heart. Guys, I can't. And I'm just going to leave it at that. You have to be mindful of cholesterol, and if you have certain conditions, you're not supposed to eat organ meat like gout. So it is a lot cheaper than, say, a cut of meat, but now that's one I can't do. But again, we're talking about 1942. Number 15, eat canned meat. So that is where sort of the love affair with Spam started, and other tinned meats like, tuna and sardines. Ugh, don't like sardines either, guys. But I do have canned chicken, canned tuna. I actually have canned pork. And it is useful at times when you don't have the money for that fresh cut of meat, or you want the protein from the meat, but you don't really have the money to afford it, or it's not available. I haven't really spoken about this, but I guess the bird flu has been a problem in certain states, and it's like 4 states. So chicken availability and turkey has been limited by that. So you may not be able to find it as readily. Number 16, use a dried egg substitute. Now this was more in Great Britain because they could only have 1 egg per person per week. And I'm like, I'd die. I'd die if I could only have 1 egg, because I do a lot of baking and I also eat eggs. I like eggs. So they had a dried egg substitute that they had to reconstitute and learn how to make tasty and not taste like dried eggs. Thankfully, right now, that's not an issue on egg supply. I have a lot of local egg suppliers. One of the gals at the Azure Standard Drop is actually feeding her chickens non-GMO food and free-ranging them, and their eggs are just beautiful. So I can get my eggs locally. So that's an option for you. Number 17, stretch your sugar. So I was really amazed because in this book, they have all kinds of ways to use syrups, like maple syrup or what they call golden syrup, honey, etc. And it really talks about decreasing the amount that you use. So here's just an example. In quick breads, when they contain up to 1/4 cup of sugar, substitute same amount of light corn syrup or honey. In recipes with more sugar, substitute for 2/3 of the sugar and reduce the liquid in the cakes. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to bake a wartime cake. In cookies, in butter cakes, in angel food, in fresh fruit and berry pies, they talk about how to not use the sugar. So that kind of put me, guys, into a little, maybe I better check my sugar, Do I have sugar? Because if they ration sugar like they did before, I'm in trouble. 1/4 pound a week, How am I going to make all my sweets? Which I shouldn't be eating anyway, right? So I got online and I thought, no worries, I will order from Walmart.com and have it delivered so I don't have to, with my back, schlep 25-pound bags of sugar. Guys, let me tell you something. I also decided to get some pre-made bread flour. Bread flour was a limit of 2. And when I was on the website, the limit was 2 of the 25-pound bags of sugar. So whenever I see a limit like that, I'm going to get the limit because that tells me something's going on. So I have 50 pounds of sugar, but guys, we're coming up to canning season and I make a lot of jams and jellies, a lot, and pie fillings and things like that. And I gift a lot of that. And I also feed my mother with some of that. So, that's all my justifications for sugar. But I was shocked that there was a limit of 2 or 10 pounds on the bread flour. So I had to do different brands. So when I went to check out, they're like, oh no, oh no. And it said free 2-day shipping with a $35 order. And you could say pick up in store or ship. We will not ship that. You have to come get it. So I had to schlep to Walmart. And with my back, I hauled 50 pounds sugar. And 25 pounds of bread flour is now in my freezer, which I'll leave it there for 3 days. So with the wheat issue I spoke about, whether it's a true shortage or not, it doesn't matter. If you can't get it, it doesn't really matter so much why, or if it's people overbuying, or if it's actually supply chain issues, whatever. Get what you can now, guys. That is my best advice to you. Okay, stretch meat. And you can do that by using tougher cuts of meat and learning how to pressure cook or stew it. And also with ground meat, like hamburger, ground pork, using a lot of filler. And that would be like rice or oats or breadcrumbs to bulk up that meat and make your emergency steak so that your family is still full and satisfied on less. Number 19, cut back on butter. Now, guys, these are not my suggestions. Again, these were wartime rationing suggestions. So use margarine, use shortening, lard, or other animal fats instead of butter because butter was rationed. And I do use lard. I do not use tallow, which is beef fat. I just prefer pig fat to beef fat, but it's certainly usable. You can render your own from certain cuts from the butcher or from the meat counter at the store. Number 20, and the final tip in this part of the series, is use a pressure cooker. Now, growing up, my mom used a pressure cooker all the time for meats. She would do roast and potatoes and carrots that was out of this world, that I can still taste, that I have not been able to duplicate as well as she did it. It does save time. It saves energy. Guys, think about your Instant Pot. I've not used my Instant Pot to its full potential. But if you could buy a cut of meat that is not grade AA and learn how to prepare it so that it comes out tender and tasty, that's more money in your pocket. So I thought that was a good suggestion. I'm going to pause myself here for a moment, and then I am going to give you some of my top tips for living in 2022 when food availability may be a little bit sketchy. So stay tuned. So lots of great tips, I think, from wartime rationing. Take those that would be helpful to you and your family. I only have to please myself. So this may be a little easier for me. I know a lot of you have spouses or children or other family that you're cooking for. So what did I take away from this rabbit hole? I think the number one thing is I am going to continue to prep. So even though Washington, D.C. says take only what you need, only take what you need is actually what it said. I am only taking what I need, but I'm taking what I need with an eye to the future. The second thing is, if you are trying to make better use of your food and ration what you use, if you're cooking for others, let them know so they're not eating up your menu plan. But think about doing things like a meatless day per week. I have been vegetarian more of my life than non-vegetarian. I still have meat in the freezer, but I'm really thinking more towards that lifestyle. I do feel better when I don't eat meat, which has to do with lupus. But anyway, could you do one meatless day per week? The soup that I told you I made today for lunch and I don't mind monotony. I cooked some convenience rice that someone gave me. I think it was my son. That you just heat in the microwave. And I put that out and I put the soup over it, even though it had some rice in it. And guys, it was extremely filling. I got my rice and beans together, my chickpeas, garbanzo beans. And so that made a complete protein, and I feel very satisfied. So finding ways to do easy vegetarian or vegan meals. If you're so inclined for vegan, I've not done well being vegan because I like butter, milk, eggs, and cheese. All right, number 3, practice living with less. Guys, we are a country of excess. We have been conditioned to really have all the good things. Things have become disposable. And I will share, I have been using my new to me, all my vintage dishes. I donated my entire set to my mom's auction of dishes that I had been using. And the number one problem that I'm having is the bowl size. Guys, is tiny. And I started thinking about that, and I thought, I've shared before about how sizes have increased, and that's why vintage patterns, I'm a confessed size 18. Why do I have to keep saying that? Anyway, I think as a nation, we eat unhealthy, and we also eat too much. And we've been conditioned to biggie size it, and more is better. And I think cutting back not only will be good for my health, because I need to lose a little bit of weight, just saying, but it's nice to figure out now, what would I do if I couldn't get? What will I do when my 50 pounds of sugar run out? And I am going to be utilizing a lot of the tips out of this book so that I do use less of the supplies that I have. So we will talk more about that in future videos. I'm just so excited for this series, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy it, because I think it will be good. I think it will be a way for us to feel more in control when things can kind of feel out of control right now. All right. Number 4, make simple meals with less ingredients, and don't be afraid to repeat if your family will tolerate it. Guys, I do not mind monotony. I will eat that soup until it's gone, and this is day 3. There's still a lot of soup left. But if I make simple meals with less ingredients, I'm not having to have more on hand, worry about spoilage of what I don't use. So that might be a help to you too. Looking at, there's all kinds of websites, guys, like 3-ingredient meals or 1-pot meals that are tasty, that can still be nutritious and filling and satisfy your family and taste good, but not be so complicated when you have to go to the grocery. Number 5, snacks. I'm not a huge snacker, but with eating less, I may need some snacks. So having filling snacks like the granola bars that I have made in the past that are healthy, with oats and nuts and dried fruit, snacking on dried fruit and nuts, and not just going for processed foods. I am working my way through those Annie's organic graham crackers, and they're okay. They're not like, wow, this tastes so much better. So that is not a super filling or nutritious snack. So I am going to be getting into all of my dehydrated foods in this cabinet behind me and starting to eat more of that. And then my final suggestion, guys, is gather your news from a variety of sources. And let me tell you why. You can search on YouTube for current food shortages or whatever, and you're going to see everything from we are in WWII to get ready, your food coupons are coming, to people who it's totally off their radar, or it's just totally off their channel, right? So just being aware of what's going on, things like wheat shortages, things like Walmart saying, I'm sorry, you can only get 2 of those. Well, I'll be needing 2. Just be aware and keep your eyes open. I am not a news watcher. I am a news reader. because watching it gives me anxiety, but keep your eyes and ears open, guys, because things have changed and they will probably continue to change. So I hope this has been helpful to you all today. I want to take a moment and talk about having a live sale. So thank you to those of you who are like, yes, I want to buy craft kits because yes, I'm not done cleaning out my craft room. So a little laugh for you before we close. I'm so embarrassed to tell you guys this, but I'm just going to tell you because you've seen my craft room, you kind of know, right? So I had 7 hefty bags of trash this week. 7, yes, 7. Guys, usually on a normal week, I don't even have a full hefty bag because I don't make that much trash. But I do when I clean things out. I have made 5, yes, count them, 5 trips to Goodwill, including one today on my way to Walmart, which actually that made number 6. But I have to carry this stuff into the donation center. So yeah, they weren't huge loads. But anyway, so I like went out like super incognito Mission Impossible style last night after dark to schlep out my bags because usually the trash is here when it's still dark. Oh my word, this morning, oh no. They were late and did not get here till like 10:30, so the whole world saw my 7 bags of trash from my craft room. But back to the live sale. Guys, I will get it together. I am delighted that some of you are interested. Drop me a comment below. This is super important. If you're interested in the live sale, give me days and times that work so that I can schedule a live. Now, with that said, I have between the 10th and the 14th, I will be working with the auction company. That's why I'm trying to get ahead. And then on the 16th, I have to have all of my taxes and all of Mom's taxes done. I haven't even started them, just saying. So I'm going to be pretty busy, but I won't forget you all. Just drop me a comment. Weekends, weekdays, time, and we'll get that organized and up, and you guys can be blessed by some really frugal craft projects that I will never get to in my natural lifetime. So if you haven't already, please do me a big favor, guys. Smash that like button. My channel's just grown by little tiny creeps and crawls, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're not subscribed, I would love to have you as part of this channel. We do a lot of different things here, not just talk about frugal living or rationing or world events. Definitely a lot more to this channel than that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell to be notified of all the new videos. I hope to see you all really soon. And as always, be well, be healthy, be blessed, and take care.